Today I'm doing another pack limited build. This time I'm doing base game and get together only. And when I first was building this, I wasn't going to make it pack limited, but then I was looking at that chimney, and so I was like, okay, the only object I place down is this chimney. If it's a good pack, I will do a pack limited build for it. And it was get together. I love the pack. I use the wallpaper all the time. The windows are great. So I decided to do a pack limited build. I have a reference picture that I'll put up on the screen to kind of show what I was basing this build off of. So this is the build that I was basing it off of. It has a bunch of little towers. Some of them look very small and would not look well with the wall pieces for the build, so I used the giant chimney for it, and then like the tower off on the side is supposed to be like a very small one hanging off, but that's like the smallest I could make it. But I end up being happy with how that looks. I think I have to like play around with the position of it and stuff to like make it look how I wanted it to. The build is pretty small, so I also try and make it a little bit bigger. I was also nervous about using another rounded wall piece. So you see I'm really trying to play around with some sort of shape to figure something out. At first I tried to do it without the rounded walls and it just didn't look as good, so I was like, okay, it's only going to be for this tower, but unfortunately the upper parts of the tower aren't functional, which is kind of annoying, but you can't place ladders inside of these, like, at least that size of the rounded walls is what I learned from my previous video from last week. But, like, but then you can place it in the little octagon-shaped one, so I don't really understand. I think maybe it's just a bug where something's blocking it. Maybe the same reason that it's hard to place items in sometimes, because there's, like, invisible things that block your way. But yeah, I'm just, like, now I'm adding like little parts of the build to make it bigger and look more interesting from the other sides, because the reference picture only shows from the front, so you kind of just have to make up what you think the rest of the house would look like. And I thought it'd be interesting to have a little piece off of the side of it, which ends up working out great because then I'm able to fit another bedroom into this build, because I do like having at least 2 bedrooms in my builds, but a lot of the time I make them too small and I can't. So this one, surprisingly, I was able to fit 3 beds in. I don't think that some of them, I don't know, there's a second bedroom that might not be completely functional, but I think it's because of like placing things under the loft bed makes it not functional. But maybe I'll just delete them or something before I upload it to the gallery. It doesn't really matter. But yeah, Get Together is a great pack for windows. I love all of the windows that are in this like pack. And I watched Mossy Sim build her like Better Together collab build that was Get Together only, so I just knew that there was a lot of windows and fences that I really wanted to use that I don't use. So since then I've been using a lot of Get Together windows, which I usually forget about the wooden ones completely, and I only ever reach for the stained glass ones and those stone ones that I'm currently placing. And I always ignore the wooden ones. But then I realized, I was like, oh, those wooden ones are really, really good. I need to use them in builds. So I've been using them way more often. I mix them with a couple of base game windows, and I think that they go really well together. A lot of packs, sometimes the swatches don't really like look good next to the base game ones, and so you always have to like either have the wood be very like mismatched or pick something else. And I usually pick something else, but for these it's like the base game one with the shutter over there, and just like the ones on the tower are from Get Together, and they look like they're meant to be together, which is exactly what I would like from a lot of the items in the packs, because a lot of it doesn't really match well with base game, unfortunately. But You know, I put those little detail pieces at the top of the roof, which I wanted to like mention that that was inspired by Mossy Sim as well. I watched her place get together ones of those over and over again because sometimes when you move the walls around, they completely move position, which I learned last night when I was like taking pictures for another build that I'm posting on my Instagram, and they moved and I was like, oh, like I need to put this all back and stuff. But yeah, I love the Ivy in Get Together. This is another pack that's very similar to one I built with Cottage Living, where I was like, it answers all of the like problems that I had with just doing a base game only build for my style, and it's windows, like wall paints, and ivy. And this is like the best ivy, I think. Well, Discover University has very good ivy too, but I love these flowers and I love this ivy, which for some reason the like one that I placed everywhere that I was had in like a brighter green, that I used the more yellowish green one, that one I never really use if I'm not doing a pack limited build. And I'm not sure why. I think I've always thought it was hard to work with, but apparently maybe my like building skills have just gotten a little bit better, and so it's like I was able to use it easier, because I remember I used to stay away from that one for some reason. And also this build, I was so uninspired when it came to the landscaping in general. Like, I had no idea what I wanted to do. Normally, I have some sort of water-like feature on the lot, and I didn't have that, so I was a little lost. I was just like, how do I landscape this flat, like, lot? And I didn't want like trees because I didn't want to block the background of it. So the background isn't Cottage Living World. So again, the lot is limited pack, but then I put it in whatever world I want because that's just, I enjoy it that way. And I don't think I'd enjoy it if I had to like do a pack limited build just in the world. It would make sense if I did, but I already started it this way. So, but yeah, I really struggled with the landscaping. I didn't know what to do. I pulled out the rocks, and that's kind of what I did for the entire landscaping. I was like, oh, okay, like I'll just have a bunch of rocks, and I do think it works out fine. I have like dead grass and rocks, and here I'm starting to make my own custom raised gardening beds, because like base game does have them. I just wanted to try something different, and so I'm like checking like the broken wooden pieces to see if I can make broken raised beds. I don't end up using that. I end up using these things, which I also used in my last pack limited build, which was Discover University. I used those stone walls as a picture frame in the living room, and so now I'm using it as gardening raised beds. I think it works like great. I love that item now, and I wonder what other stuff I could possibly make out of it. So I'll be experimenting. But yeah, I do just the raised beds. I realize that I do like the stone fence mixed with the original fence that I had placed that I was gonna do, so I left it like that. I don't add too much to the yard or anything. I just like do a little path. I think at the end of the video I add some like crops and stuff into the gardening beds and some gnomes. That's pretty much it. Yeah, see, I was just like seeing what kind of stuff I would do, and I clean up the path and stuff. Paths are so hard. I always like spend too much time on it because I never am like happy with how it ends up like looking. So I kind of just have to accept it and move on, or else I'll just be doing it forever. So I'm like, okay, I'll do this rough path, and then I'm sure it'll be fine in the end. And it usually is, because then I don't notice it in pictures and stuff, so it's like completely fine. There's also a bug in the game where sometimes it deletes your terrain paint, so it's better to just like not put a bunch of effort if it gets deleted. But yeah, this is the interior. The floor plan came out pretty quickly. It's so tiny though, and so I was really nervous while I was doing it. I wanted the rounded like room to be the bedroom, because originally I was thinking that a kitchen would be perfect there, but I already did a kitchen with a rounded wall in last week's video, and it was so hard to place things, like especially cabinets in there. So it's like, okay, right away, I am placing a bed in there. That's the bedroom. I also spent a long time trying to play with the, like what is that window called, the window that like sticks out, by putting a bed in there, and I tried a bunch of different things. I cut it all out because I ended up just going with a loft bed that's similar to the first build that I did on this channel, where I just put a loft bed and it's kind of like tucked into the window a little bit, and then I just add a bed underneath. So it's a house for 3 Sims, which is like, it's surprising because it is such a small build. I think I have enough seating for 3 Sims. I was trying to keep that in mind because sometimes I'll have an extra bed and then I won't actually have the like dining space or like living room space for it. So I tried my best. I'm pretty sure that it's able to like seat 3 Sims in it. But yeah, here I'm realizing that I wanted an easier bathroom, so I just like pulled out the walls a little bit and edited the outside, because again, I'm always trying to remind myself that I can just edit something while I'm still building and I don't have to stick to the exact shape. It's hard though, because as you could see, I do all of the detail before I even go inside of the build. So when I went inside of the build too, there was no windows in here, so I had to add windows on the outside. For some reason, whenever I'm building, I always like never place windows on the bottom floor for some reason, because it never looks good, because I think I use like a lot of stone on the bottom floor. So in my head, I'm like, this is the base of it. It doesn't have windows, and then the other parts have windows, but then, like, most of the house is on the bottom floor, and in this case, the entire house is, because I can't use all of the towers. And I'm now realizing I don't think I put anything in the tower that I put the ladder up to. I purposely put a ladder to use that, and I think I completely forgot about it. Maybe I'll go back and place some items in it, but it won't be in the video. I'll just maybe add like an easel or something up there. And for wallpaper, I just struggle with wallpaper in general in my builds lately. I feel like it's never been that way, but like as of the last like few months, wallpapers are really hard. So I've been just using the same one in like almost every room and accepting that, because I get in my head where I'm like, you can't use the same thing throughout the entire build, but it looks better that way, so I just end up doing that. So I use the same sort of wallpaper that I used on the outside, on the inside, and I just like placed a couple of accent walls that are different, but I feel like it works this way. The kitchen's very small, everything's very small. I use that specific get-together candle, I think, in almost every single room. It's my favorite candle. I use it in every single build, and so there's not a lot of candles in base game is what I'm realizing. Like the chandelier and the wall candles, I didn't want to use those ones because they look like fake candles and I really wanted real flames, but I don't think that there are any in like other ones, and I can't remember if there's any in base game. I have a feeling that if there is, there's only like maybe one and it didn't work for this build. But yeah, this living room is very squished together. I love the wall art in Get Together, so I made sure to use my favorite painting in the game that I also used in last week's video. It's just a great painting in like general. But yeah, I add a little desk area, which I always like almost forget about, and I'm glad I could fit it into this build. I don't think I put any technology into this build, so I don't think there's a computer, and I don't think there's a TV. And I'm just using that shelf from the pack that has the interior career just briefly to put some books on top of there. I still need to get the red shelf mod. I spoke about that in my last video too, but I recorded that voiceover yesterday and I'm recording this one earlier. Normally I don't do this. Normally I record my voiceovers like a few days before I'm gonna post, but I decided that I wanted this video to be out a little bit early because the new expansion comes out next week and I want to like start a new 100 baby challenge and stuff. So I didn't want to like rush the video where I didn't want to do it because I wanted to play gameplay. So I wanted to make sure that it was done before then. So, and this voiceover was just like an impulse thing. I woke up and I'm like, yeah, I'll do that. Oh, and that table that I placed, it's the card table from Get Together. And I think it would look really cute as sort of a coffee table. And I'm going to do that in one of my builds. I couldn't do it in this one because the space was a little too small. And I was afraid that sizing it down would still block like the path of the Sims. I didn't play test this build, but I will before I upload it and stuff. I think most of my builds are just like, some have a lot of problems in it, and most of the time it's because of objects I place outside. So I am trying to not use like huge objects that kind of like make half the build unplayable. So it should be okay because I only used rocks on this one, but I didn't really know what to do with this dining room. I just put shelves in and put a bunch of clutter, and I like that mix of clutter. I think it, like, I'm getting better at cluttering with Basegame. It used to be so hard for me. I wanted that clown painting in the build, but I was like, okay, I don't think it works this time, so I'm gonna remove it. But I love the clown painting. I have some shelves in the kitchen mixed in with cabinets because that's normally what I like to do, because I like to add my own personal like kitchen clutter in, and that's a good way to do it every time. I'm adding more wall art because I always want to just be really good at making like good statement walls with a mixture of art and stuff, and I'm always afraid of using the same thing and like it looking like I'm using the same painting over and over again. But I saw recently in like another entry of the Better Together collab, someone had a really good wall art like piece, and they used a bunch of those like portrait ones, so I decided to use the portrait in different portraits, and it ended up like coming out good. So I'm glad I had seen that post because I would have never really just tried to use different portraits for some reason. But yeah, the bedroom, very simple. I didn't do much with it. I had a dresser and that's it. I'm a little nervous that the bed doesn't work, but can't really do anything about it right now. I'll check it out later. But yeah, here is like the extra bed, which I know isn't going to be functional because I put a dollhouse underneath of it, and that's never functional when you place other objects that don't snap underneath there. And again, I couldn't like find good candles, so I just grabbed that floor one and made it like pretend like it was a candlestick type thing that could sit on top of there. Just some toys and stuff. I don't really like this room. I kind of just threw stuff in. It's a small room, so it's hard to clutter. I also changed that wallpaper. Even though I love that wallpaper, I felt like it didn't go in this room anymore. So one of the different wallpapers I used gets changed to the one that I always use throughout all of it. So yeah, the bathroom also simple. I use that stool that Mossy Sim told me about. I use that in almost all of my bathrooms, and more little details on the outside, and I'm pretty sure that's like all I end up doing. There's just some gnomes that I'm gonna add. Oh, of course, a picnic table. And I'm remembering to place down trash cans and mailboxes for once. I never do that, and I want to get better at remembering to do that. It's hard sometimes. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that's all of the build. I just placed some of these fireflies. I placed them on the roof. I haven't seen what they look like up there yet, so I hope it looks good. But yeah, thank you for watching, everyone. Bye.